Argentine author Jorge Luis Borges once imagined a book that was also a maze. Every page forked into new paths, every choice split the future. That's America right now. Donald Trump is fading, and JD Vance won't inherit a fortress. He'll inherit a labyrinth. And at the center of that labyrinth, the 2026 midterms. The midterms aren't merely important in the civics textbook sense, they're existential. The result will decide who the Speaker of the House is, the third in line to the presidency. They decide whether a vice president can even exist. They decide whether an already fragile regime consolidates or collapses. Let's walk into the labyrinth of the near future. Path 1. Trump is alive, but incapacitated. Under the 25th Amendment, Trump remains president. Vance becomes acting president. And that word matters. Acting is temporary, which means if Vance is impeached or removed, the succession doesn't pass through a vacant vice presidency because there isn't one. It jumps straight to the Speaker of the House. If Democrats control the House after 2026, a Democratic Speaker is literally one impeachment vote away from the presidency. Path 2. Trump dies or is forced to resign. If Trump dies, then Vance becomes president outright. But until Congress confirms a new VP by majority of both chambers, the office stays empty. Again, the Speaker remains a heartbeat away. So in both scenarios, the midterms decide whether a fragile White House can lock in power or whether it stands permanently one step away from collapse. Let's go into each of these scenarios in turn. Path 1, the terminal regency. Trump lingers, alive but absent. Vance becomes acting president. He tries to channel Trump's spirit, governing as a steward of his lingering presence. Days 1 through 14, we might see a calm surface, emergency memos, rumor theater. In months 1 through 6, the Regency might lean on emergency powers. But after the Supreme Court's Loper-Bright ruling killed Chevron deference, courts no longer trust agencies to stretch laws. Every executive order faces injunction. Governance turns brittle. Resistance multiplies. Governors, courts, markets, even soft secession from states that drag their feet. Years 1 through 2, 3 possibilities. An authoritarian hybrid rule. Maximal executive orders tripped by the courts. A caretaker pact. States and elites run parallel authority. Security clampdown. More paramilitaries and raids, but not open military rule. Everyday life feels like democracy on paper, but a security state in practice. Here's where political science matters. Barbara Geddes studied 280 autocracies between 1946 and 2010. She found that most don't fall to mass uprisings. 35% collapse because of insider betrayal, 26% collapse by election, only 17% by popular revolt. Insiders jump ship when they believe the regime might fall, and the earlier they defect, the better their odds in the new order. The terminal regency lives on borrowed time. If insiders believe the midterms could flip the House, the knives come out early. Path 2, the brittle fortress. Trump dies or is forced to resign. Vance becomes president immediately. Funeral pomp and unity speeches cover the cracks, but the vice presidency becomes the regime's biggest gamble. He can nominate, but both chambers must confirm. If either chamber blocks him, the seat stays empty, leaving the Speaker a heartbeat away. And that VP choice shapes the path forward. Ethno-nationalist hardliner, theocratic ideologue, Trump heir, or tech oligarch. Each signals the fork the regime will try to take. From there, tilted elections, state-federal trench warfare, constant fights in courts no longer deferential to agencies. Everyday life becomes a compliance state. Still elections, still laws, but who counts the votes and what counts as law bends toward incumbents? Here's the frame to keep in mind. Political scientist Stephen Levitsky calls this competitive authoritarianism. Regimes where elections exist and matter, but the playing field is tilted. Competition is real, but it's not fair. Let's go back over why the midterms are existential. If Trump is alive but incapacitated, Vance is acting president. If he falls, the speaker takes over. The midterms decide who that speaker is. If Trump dies or resigns, Vance becomes president. But without majorities in both chambers, the VP slot stays empty, again, leaving the speaker one step away. After Loper Bright, with courts more aggressive, statutes matter more than ever. The midterms decide who writes them. That's why every corridor of the maze bends towards 2026. It's not just another election. It decides whether the regime survives or is forced back toward pluralism. The Constitution sketches straight lines, but politics writes a choose-your-own-adventure in the margins. Every corridor hides insider knives. Every step could fork the path, and the midterms are the center of the labyrinth. J.D. Vance walks in carrying whatever fragments of self he has left. Whether institutions pull him back toward law or the labyrinth closes around him depends on 2026. This is just a glimpse of the maze. For the full walkthrough, read the essay on my Substack. One last note, TikTok's future in the US is uncertain. I'll be moving the bulk of my work over there. If you want to keep following, that's the place.